Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call Miss Jackie Warner to the stand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Miss Horner, when you first met Hansel and Gretel Schmidt, did they seem like they would do anything to harm anything or anyone? No. They were both very kind kids, and they seemed like they were very happy and that they would not do anything to intentionally hurt someone or their property. What impression did Melania have on you when you first met her? Well, she seems like a nice woman, but we never really spoke much because we both have different shops that sell baked goods. Have you ever seen Melania go out in a car? No, I've never seen her with a car or a new car. Do you know how she carries all those groceries without a car? No, I do not. They seem like since she has such a thriving business that she would have to buy a lot of groceries. But I don't think a woman of her age, a small woman like that, could carry all those groceries by herself. Thank you.
Counsel, do you have any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Jackie, what was the item that Hansel gave to her?
I'm not quite sure. After they went out of her shop, I never really got a chance to speak to them again before your guys' police came and took them, I guess you would say.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Devine? Defense, do you have any other witnesses that you'd like to call to the stand?
No.
At this point in time, we will be giving closing statements. Prosecution, I will give you the first opportunity to make a closing statement.
Well, once again, ladies of the jury, may I remind you of what we have left from these riveting testimonies. Melania has second-degree burns on her hands and forearms, and she has hospital bills to follow. Now, she doesn't deserve that kind of treatment. She's just a poor old lady, as I said in the opening statement. Now, may I remind you again that there is one verdict that you shall give today. And now that you have heard what Hansel and Gretel have done to Melania, that should be 10 times easier. And that verdict is that Hansel and Gretel Schmidt are nothing but guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. At this point in time, the defense, would you like to make a closing statement to the jury?
Yes, Your Honor. Dear ladies of the jury, there is one obvious verdict to this crime, that Hansel and Gretel Schmidt are innocent. I remind you, Melania had second-degree burns when she was wearing uppercuts. Why dress up as something negative when she could have dressed up as something positive, like a fairy or the good witch of the north, to actually draw kids to the shop, the witch would scare them away. She already admitted to starting the rumor that she was a witch. What if she's lying about this one? Why would she come to the road late at night when nobody's at her house? And why would she travel without a car? It's clear that she could afford them all the money that she gained from her gingerbread shop. The bag could be very heavy and she might not be able to carry them back to her home. Hansel and Gretel Schmidt are just two misunderstood children that were wrongly accused of crimes against gingerbread houses and Melania Jeweller's shop. Using this evidence and testimonies, I hope that you will agree with me that these poor children are innocent. It's obviously in Mal's nature to wrongly accuse children to better herself. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, counselor. Ladies of the jury, at this point in time, I address my questions to you. Hansel and Gretel are being charged with aggravated burglary or battery, criminal mischief, and petty theft. Jury, you are to try the defendants in a fair manner based upon the evidence and the testimonies that you have provided in the courtroom today, and only that information provided today. Also, in order for the defendant to be proven guilty, the following things must be true of each charge. For aggravated burglary or battery, it must be intentional or knowing. Cause great bodily harm, permanent disfigurement, or disability, or use of a deadly weapon. For criminal mischief, it must be willingly and maliciously done. The damage of personal property belonging to someone else can include graffiti or other types of vandalism. For petty theft, illegal taking or carrying away of personal property belonging to another. Value is at a low amount that may vary from state to state. Those are the charges being brought against Mr. Hansel and Ms. Gretel. Jury, at this point in time, you may be dismissed to deliberate over there in the chambers. Stand. Bailiff will take you to your deliberation rounds.
From this point, Ms. King is going to take me.
At this point in time, the court is adjourned until the notice until the jury has finished their deliberations.
Miss Kelsey, what? I would like to ask you, how do you feel that the trial went? I feel that it went good. How do you think the jury will decide? By if they think that the teenage kids are are saying the truth or are lying. Thank you. Miss Alyssa, who do you think has won today's trial? Who had the most convincing of testimonies? Let me ask again. In your opinion, are Hansel and Gretel the mischievous kids in the defense display? No. Is there anything new that you have learned from this trial?
When you were an adult.
Ladies of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
Before, I want to make sure that I'd like to be able to take this to make sure that this is the actual document that the jury they came up with, the verdict they've come up with. Please give that to the foreman of the jury. Is that the correct document? And you can bring that back to me, please. Foreman, would you please rise, and would the defendant please rise?
Hansel Schmidt is not guilty of aggravated battery, not guilty of criminal mischief, and guilty of petty theft. Gretel Schmidt is not guilty of aggravated battery, not guilty of criminal mischief, and guilty of petty theft.
Thank you, ladies of the jury. The defendant, to repeat for the record, the defendant, Hansel Schmidt, has been found not guilty of the charge of aggravated battery, not guilty of the charge of criminal mischief, and Hansel Schmidt has been found guilty of the charge of petty theft. The verdict for Gretel Schmidt, Gretel has been found not guilty of aggravated battery, aggravated mischief, but she has been found guilty of the charge of petty theft. That concludes the trial case. I thank the jury, and I want to thank the members of the jury for their service and for all that they've done. This concludes the case of 24607. The case state Hansel and Gretel versus Schmidt versus the state. Thank you for participating. The court is adjourned.
All rise.
Good job, guys. Well done. Now, question. You may sit. Question. But I'm in the principal role. Who would like to possibly be an attorney? Okay. Now, the one thing that I was wondering if Tony or someone else was going to, when you start badgering the witness, if I came up and if I put Luke on the stand and I started saying something to him, when I'm an attorney, I cannot just give my opinion. I have to form everything in the form of what?
A question.
A question. If you don't put it in the form of a question, it would be, if I were to lead the witness, you could have, if let's say Tony was leading the witness, you could have said, I do what? If you're the other opposite, if you're on the other, what would you have said? I object to that. And then the judge would then have to say, I would have to say overruled, which means Tony could continue, or I could say sustained, which is basically the opposite. Okay? So it is being a lawyer. Sometimes you have to pose questions, and you have to be very use your words, your verbiage in terms of being able to get the information out of a person. You can't say, well, this is what I think. You have to give questions to get to that point. So, good job to all the witnesses. Good job to both counselors, and thank you, Ms. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis, for being our judge.
So, good question, Angelina. They were found guilty. The ladies of the jury found them guilty of the one charge of petty theft, that they stole something. But they were found not guilty of the aggravated battery of pushing her into the stove, and then the other one was the charge of
criminal mischief.
Criminal mischief. They were found not guilty. So the only thing they were found guilty of is the charge of stealing, petty theft.
Technically, they would have gone to jail.
Technically, later at that point in time, I would then, in a real case, what would happen is you would go, if you're found guilty and went to a trial, the judge at that point in time could either sentence them at that point in time, or they would sentence them later. Depending, usually on a trial, they send them to a sentence. They don't do the sentencing at the trial. They do it later. But if you were to go to court, I've appeared in court for a couple of different things. That means because of the principle that the judge gives his verdict, and the ruling is what takes place. Usually it's for financial. They'll say you have to pay or you have to do something else. The judge usually gives his or her verdict, there. But on a trial case of something along this lines, sometimes it's just you and the attorney and just saying you appear before. If it's not a jury, it's just the judge making the decision. And as a defendant, you have a choice. Do you want a trial of the jury of your peers or by a judge? Now I'll throw that question out to all of you. What do you think would have been better for Hansel and Gretel? A jury of their peers or just one judge? You think the jury, okay? Because here's the thing. Jury, I don't know if you learned this or not, jury, how many people have to find the defendants guilty? All of them. So if Allie is the one person not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, even if it's 6-1, the defendant is found not guilty. Even if 6 of the other girls say guilty and she says not guilty, it doesn't happen. They're not found guilty.
Remember that? You guys got so frustrated because the one went and changed on her.
Yes.
You have to convince the whole. You have to convince the whole jury that person is guilty. Because if not, if the defense person the prosecution has a tough job sometimes because they have to convince the entire jury that the person is guilty. If they have one person that says not guilty, the person is not guilty, and it has to be with beyond a reasonable doubt. It cannot be well, maybe. It has to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Now the defense, they just have to convince one person. So if I see that Allie's the one that says, "Oh," I look at the fire and say, "Look at Hanson, look at Gretel. Look how sad they look. How sickly they look." Do you really think that those innocent kids could push this lady into the oven?
Nope.
I don't think it. I don't think you can find it in your heart that these weak, innocent kids would do so. So I'm trying to play on your heart and your emotion. And at that point in time, I can't do that doing this. But at this moment of statements, I look at you and I say, look how sickly they are. I'm poor. Have you ever been hungry? Have you ever been hungry to the point where all you just need is just a little bit of a treat, just a little pick-me-up, because you didn't have the money? I feel for these kids. So should you. You have the responsibility to find them not guilty because they didn't do anything wrong. And then at that point in time, that's the only time you can really talk to the jury. Other times else, you have to talk to the question. So great job, both sides. Congratulations. You'll be spending the day in school suspension for your charge of petty theft.
It's just a few pieces of cake.
Ladies and gentlemen, both sides, good job, Ms. King.
Thank you. Thank you so much.